I want to tell you the story of how it came about that I taped an audio interview with my father, Roy Arthur Childers, in 1973, and then also what happened with the results of that over the years since then. I was teaching English at North Buncombe High School in 1972. Here's a picture of me casting a baleful glance at the photographer, I suppose. I have Terry Roberts to thank for excavating this from the school archives recently and sharing it with me. It was my privilege to have a goodly group of very smart students in my area of responsibility, and I came to feel that I needed something unusual to challenge them, something different than ordinary classroom assignments that might be more typical. I had known for some time about a project called Foxfire. There was a publication at that time related to that. It was produced at Rabun Gap Nacoochee School in North Georgia. Essentially, the teachers involved, or the teacher who started it, arranged to have high school English students go out to interview local elders in the local community, and to learn about how they had lived when they were younger and what kind of skills they had in a more primitive way of life that they had in times gone by. I had admired it, so I decided I will borrow the idea, or some might say I imitated it shamelessly, be that as it may. We did, and it turned out to be really, I think, quite successful. The students produced a little magazine called Windfall, and in that they collected the results of their efforts. For example, one person they interviewed was a local retired blacksmith named Claude Arrowwood. Another was a retired grain miller named Orpha Lovin. And there were many, many more things, many more people and situations that they treated in the magazine. The following summer, that is the summer of 1973, I was not teaching, had some time on my hands, and it occurred to me that perhaps I ought to do myself what I had taught them to do. So I asked my father, Roy Childers, can I interview you? And he very kindly agreed, although looking back, it seems, I can't help wondering if the idea of that didn't make him a little nervous, perhaps felt a little odd to have his son interviewing him. Anyway, he agreed. He did not express any of that if he felt it. And so one summer day in the afternoon, I think it was, we sat down on the porch of the Childers family home. This was a house that my parents had built in the 1950s to do the interview. Now, I'll set the stage a little for you by showing you some photographs. Here's one of Daddy, taken in the 1970s, probably the mid-1970s. Here's a picture of my mother, Margaret Inez Shepherd Childers, posing with the porch in the background in winter. Another of her from a different view, showing a different angle onto the porch where she's sitting among the flowers in summer. And then a picture of both of them together much later, probably around 1990, I think. And I would guess, looking at this photograph, that this was a case of their kindly agreeing to what I insisted on doing when they would prefer to have had time to put on nice clothes. They were both reasonably fastidious about how they looked in photographs. But I'm sure I said, oh, you're fine as you are, everybody's casual now, and so it went. So this is a picture of them around 1990, I think. To do the video, we simply sat down on that porch with a little table between us, and on the table was an old Arvin cassette recorder not too old then, but very, compared to what's available today, very old technology. And so we proceeded. I don't think we had a script much. I think I just asked Daddy, can you talk about your memories of childhood, your family, your elders, and so forth. And so it went, proceeded quite randomly. If there was a lull, I would try to ask a question to move it along a little bit. And I remember one spectacular failure, which is in one of these videos. Such a lull occurred, and I asked, what about taxes? Did your parents pay taxes? And Daddy humored me by trying to say something about that, but quickly, fortunately, thought of something he was more interested in, and got going again on his own. And that was pretty much the way most of the interview went. At the end of the day, I had a cassette tape. This had gone well enough, I felt, that I wanted to do more. And so in January, the following January, I interviewed my aunt, Bergie Shepard Hobson, at Barnardsville. And a couple of years later, at my father's suggestion, I also interviewed his oldest brother, Francis David Childers, in Asheville, where he lived. And except for, I did make a copy of that last tape for his son, my cousin Carol, who was interested. Other than that, all I did was to transcribe the tapes onto paper at that point. Wasn't very interested, honestly, I have to say. I did it as I explained, and then I moved on to other things. Years passed, decades passed, and several moves later, in 2005, which was 5 years after I retired from my later career in computer systems, I, one day, kind of out of the blue, remembered a little packet of family history notes that my mother had given me long before, probably in the 1970s, I think. And I hadn't thought of it for years, but I had filed it away. And something clicked. Perhaps it was the fact that I had reached an age where it was natural to be interested in my past and the history of my family. Anyway, I, at that point, had acquired some computer skills, obviously, and I got the idea of trying to collect what was known and also research and discover more about the Childers family and the Shepard family and their kin, their connections, and to collect it on a website, which I was building or would build. And so I proceeded and moved along quite speedily through the more recent generations where more was known. And then I remembered again that I had those tapes, or I hoped I had those tapes. I remembered making the tapes. As I said, I'd moved a few times over those decades and didn't really remember, hoped they were in a box, on one of those boxes that followed me wherever I went. So I poked around and did indeed find the tapes. The next problem was how to get them from the old analog cassette into my computer. And I guess with my father's can-do spirit, which I and both of my brothers, I think, inherited, I assumed, well, I can do that. So I popped the cassette into this little Sony Walkman, or one like this. This is a pretty close picture of the actual one, although I no longer have that. And I connected a cord from the earphone jack on the Walkman into my computer, used some kind of program that was on the computer, and lickety-split, I was transferring data. The actual process, of course, took much longer because I needed to listen carefully to the audio file and then to split it into little portions by subject matter. So I spent some days doing that. Here is a link to the page at childershepard.org, that website which I had built, showing how those files, for my father in his case, how those audio files came out. And there's a list of them, and actually they're still connected there. And you could actually go there, click on the link, and listen to the audio file. What I'm doing now, finally, and have been working on recently, is to improve the files and make them a little bit more organized and, I hope, more engaging by converting them into videos that will have pictures, such as they are, such as I can find, to go along with the spoken words, and also to organize them into 3 topics, each resulting in a separate video. Those 3 topics are my father's ancestors, is one that I'm currently working on. A second one that actually is finished is a video of my father talking about his memories of Couch's Creek, where the family lived when he was born and when he was small, and where he grew up, really. And the third video about the approximately 2 years when the family migrated temporarily to Greenville, South Carolina for work in the cotton mill. And that one is yet to be done. The one that is done is already linked into Daddy's profile at wikitree.com, and here's the link for that, or the URL for that. And when the others are ready, they will go there too. So anyone who's researching, looking, Roy Arthur Childers, looking for information about him, will have access to the videos, I hope. So I hope you will enjoy them as they become available. Show them to other people, recommend them to other people, pass the word. And also, I hope you will think about the fact that you're probably carrying around near you in your pocket or your purse a video camera in your phone, and that you will think about elders who are near you who need to be recorded for the sake of oral history. History, this kind of history, is the building block of all of our history. And there are people all around you who know fascinating things, remember fascinating things that will be lost unless you ask them questions, get them talking, and record what they have to say. So I hope you will do that and help build up the history of all of our families.